Welcome, welcome. Bonjour, bonjour. Hello. Welcome, welcome. Just started, so gonna wait for people to join. Gonna be continuing reading Treasure Island. So, how is everybody doing? Hope everybody's having a good night, good morning. It's nighttime for me. Well, technically it's 2 a.m. for me, so hope everybody's doing well. Everybody's looking forward to being read to. So, either help their morning get started or help them to get to sleep. I'll just give some time for everybody to get the notifications, to join us, who like to participate. You just get in here. Yes, I just started. I just started my live. Steel City. So going to be reading Treasure Island, continuing. We are in chapter 14. And I'm really excited too, because I just had this idea. Well, actually, it wasn't my idea. Cool, nope, not yet. I'm glad that you're here. So one of my friends, who's also a TikToker and Twitch streamer, he suggested I start doing my readings, and like everybody who either probably be easier to anybody who sends like a gift, I write their name on this one bookmark thing, and I just have everybody's name on a bookmark. And I found these really, really cute ones on Amazon, and I cannot wait to show you. I'm getting them Friday, I think. So, halfway through the book, yes. Almost halfway. Hello, nerd. Hello. Yeah. So this is how much we've read, and this is how much we have to go. So, yeah. Almost halfway. So yeah, I can't wait to get those bookmarks, and I'll have a proper bookmark too. But I cannot wait to show you guys because it's so freaking cute. I'm loving it. Awesome. Welcome everybody. Hope everybody's having a good evening or a good morning depending on where you're at. It's 2 a.m. for me here. I'm just starting. I haven't started yet. Continuing reading Treasure Island. We're in chapter 14. Oh, hello! Wanted to drop in, share a smile with you as well to wish you. Oh my gosh, friends, thank you so much. That is so sweet. Thank you. I appreciate that. That makes me feel good. 3 a.m. there, awesome. Hello, Christopher. Welcome. What's kickin' chicken? Just getting ready to start reading from Treasure Island. We're in chapter 14, so I haven't started yet for tonight, so I'm starting a little bit later. I was doing my Twitch streaming earlier. We were all playing Mario Kart 8, and I started having a really bad vertigo episode. So I'm finally just, the medicine I took is finally kicking in, so I'm a little worn out, but this is one of my favorite things to look forward to, so I definitely didn't want to miss it. Hello, Farango. Hello. Nice to see you again. Covert BBC. I don't know what that is. British comedy? I'm not British. I wish. I love British accents. Alright, so I don't see some of the people who always want to make sure they're in here yet. So, smiles always warm my heart. Aw, thank you. Is your Twitch your bio? Yes, yep. I try to make sure my name is as uniform as possible. And if you want the link as well, it's in my TikTok bio. I have a Linktree link. If you click on that, you'll see the direct link to my Twitch page as well. And everything else is in there as well. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, so it was a lot of fun tonight. I did have to cut it short because I started having a really bad vertigo spell. That was the second time I've had one in my life, so I'm still not used to them, and they're not fun. It was really, really bad this time. But yeah, it was so much fun. Definitely gonna have to do it again pretty regularly. Rocket League ago. I just think people playing it, maybe I just have to give it a chance because it doesn't look like a game I would be great at. But I know, I think if I give it a go, I think that I'd probably get into it, especially with friends. I think it's games like that are always fun with friends. But there was, I think, 5 of us in there, a Mario Kart 8, and it was a blast. Um, so it's okay. We have to take care. Yes, yes, it's fun. The game modes are entertaining. Okay, yeah, I've only seen people playing it, so I'm not too familiar with that. I'm a total nerd. I swear all play is Overwatch. Hey, nothing wrong with that. Play what you like. That's what I do. All right, so I think this is hello from Colorado. Hello, Colorado. Hello, Burns. Um, I guess maybe the other people are gonna just unfortunately miss this one, but I'll just read like 2 chapters this time because I am needing some rest tonight. Hello, Chicago, Brian. Hey, from Philadelphia. Hello, Mary. Welcome, Mary Beth. We're gonna be reading Treasure Island. I'm continuing in chapter 14 tonight. So, I guess we'll get started because I'm not, I think by now they would have seen the notification, so I think they're just, sleeping or something already. But if anybody joins in, hopefully, hi from across the river from Philly. Hello, Philly. Hello, NJ. Welcome. Gonna be reading Treasure Island. You make this. Aw, thank you, Faringo. I try. I do, really. Okay. You guys ready? Thank you for all the likes. Thank you for all the follows. Thank you for being here. I enjoy all of you guys. Yeah. I am about to fall asleep. I'm really tired. I've had a rough day. But like I said, this is like my favorite part of the evening, and no matter how tired I am, I don't want to miss it. I just enjoy this time reading reading for all of you, and just like seeing how much people enjoy this so much. I don't want to miss it. So, thank you for the follows, thank you for the likes, thank you for the gifts. I really appreciate them. At this point, any gifts help me to buy some groceries, so any is appreciated. If you like Kingdom Hearts, oh my gosh. So I've been playing Zelda. Zelda's my absolute #1 favorite game of all time. Always is. Always will be. And Kingdom Hearts is like a top 3 of my games. So, yeah, I play those a lot. Oh, hello! Hello, the real, the real Swift. Hello, real. Alright, we'll get started. Okay. Anybody who's just joining us, we're going to be just started tonight reading Treasure Islands. Yeah, for sure, I agree with you. And I'm going to be continuing tonight in chapter 14. That's where we left off. And as usual, I always read, I'm starting to try to make sure I read like the last paragraph from the previous chapter, just so that we can kind of get our bearings for where we're at, and then continue into the next. Alright, so this is the last paragraph from the previous chapter, and then we'll start into the new chapter for tonight, chapter 14. The crews raced for the beach, but the boat I was in, having some start, and being at once the lighter and the better manned, shot far ahead of her consort, and the bow had struck among the shoreside trees, and I had caught a branch and swung myself out and plunged into the nearest thicket, while Silver and the rest were still 100 yards behind. "Jim! Jim!" I heard him shouting. But you may suppose I paid no heed, jumping, ducking, and breaking through. I ran straight before my nose till I could run no longer. And now chapter 14 is called The First Blow. Aw, David. Hello. Did you just flip me off? I guess that means, I'll take it, I guess, with the heart. Hi, Connecticut, USA. Hello. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Dodds. 1,000 to slip M out accidentally. What? Okay, Frango, can you block him? Thank you for the rose, TD. I'll just block him. Oh, thank you. Okay. Appreciate that. Alright, so everybody um everybody else who's decent, thank you. I was reading it too, trying to see what it was. Yeah. Um I am. Welcome back. Welcome back. Um I didn't get very far and there was already somebody being extremely rude, obnoxious, disrespectful. So we're off to a great start. Hello, Iowa. Hello, Benny. Hello. Okay, so I still technically began. Sorry I missed Mario Kart time. Oh, no worry, Whitehurst. Definitely gonna do it again, so no worries. Welcome to the live. We're just starting, so chapter 14, just starting out. Hello, Seattle. Hello. Okay, let's get going again. Alright. I was so pleased at having given the slip to Long John that I began to enjoy myself and look around me with some interest on the strange land that I was in. I had crossed a marshy tract full of willows, bulrushes, and odd, outlandish, swampy trees, and I had now come out upon the skirts of an open piece of undulating, sandy country, about a mile long, dotted with a few pines and a great number of contorted trees, not unlike the oak in growth, but pale in the foliage, like willows. On the far side of the open stood one of the hills, with two quaint, craggy peaks shining vividly in the sun. Hello, New Zealand. I always love New Zealand golf. Thank you. Good day, mate. What's up? How are you? Oh, hello, Hound. Thank you. Welcome. Just reading. Jesus loves you and he died for you. Aw, thank you, Jacob. Some people are in another world. Yeah, we're reading Treasure Island. The words to describe this girl without. Yeah, that's funny. So I recognize that song. Alright, I now felt for the first time the joy of exploration. This isle was uninhabited, my shipmates I had left behind, and nothing lived in front of me but dumb brutes and fowls. I turned hither and thither among the trees. Here and there were flowering plants unknown to me. Here and there I saw snakes, and one raised its head from a ledge of rock and hissed at me with a noise not unlike the spinning of a top. Little did I suppose that he was a deadly enemy, and that noise was the famous rattle. Uh-oh, rattlesnake. Hello. Hello, beat aunties. That's a terrible name. Then I came to a long thicket of these oak-like trees, lives or evergreens, oaks. I heard afterward they should be called, which, sorry, let me read that again. I think I mixed that up. Then I came to a long thicket of these oak-like trees, live, or evergreen oaks. I heard afterward they said be called. I don't know. Okay, never mind. That's just the wording. Which grew low along the sand like brambles. The boughs curiously twisted, the foliage compact like thatch. The thicket stretched down from the top of one of the sandy knolls, spreading and growing taller as it went, until it reached the margin of the broad, reedy fen, through which the nearest of the little rivers soaked its way into the anchorage. The marsh was steaming in the strong sun, and the outline of the spyglass trembled through the haze. All at once there began to go a sort of bustle among the bulrushes. A wild duck flew up with a quack. Another followed. And soon over the whole surface of the marsh a great cloud of birds hung screaming and circling in the air. I judged at once that some of my shipmates must be drawing near along the borders of the fen. Nor was I deceived, for soon I heard the very distant and low tones of human voice, which, as I continued to give ear, grew steadily louder and nearer. This put me in great fear, and I crawled under cover of the nearest live oak and squatted there, hearkening as silent as a mouse. Another voice answered, and then the first voice, which I now recognized to be Silver's, once more took up the story, and ran on for a long while in a stream, only now and again interrupted by the other. By the sound they must have been talking earnestly and almost fiercely, but no distinct word came to my hearing. At last the speaker seemed to have paused, and perhaps to have sat down, for not only did they cease to draw any nearer, but the birds themselves began to grow more quiet, and to settle again to their places in the swamp. And now I began to feel that I was neglecting my business, that since I had been so foolhardy as to come ashore with these desperadoes, the least I could do was to overhear them at their councils, and that my plain and obvious duty was to draw as close as I could manage, under the favorable ambush of the crouching trees. I could tell the direction of the speakers pretty exactly, not only by the sound of their voices, but by the behavior of the few birds that still hung in alarm above the heads of the intruders. Crawling on all fours, I made steadily but slowly toward them, till at last, raising my head to an aperture among the leaves, I could see clear down into a little green dell beside the marsh, and closely set about the trees, where Long John Silver and one of the crew stood face to face in conversation. The scene beat full upon them. Silver had thrown his hat beside him on the ground, and his great, smooth, blond face, head all shining with heat, was lifted to the other man's in a kind of appeal. "Mate," he was saying, "it's because I thinks gold dust of you. Gold dust. And you may lay to that. If I hadn't took it to you like pitch, do you think I'd have been here a warning of you? All's up. You can't make nor mend. It's to save your neck that I am speaking. And if one of the wild uns knew it, where'd I be? Tom, now, tell me, where'd it be?" "Silver," said the other man, and I observed he was not only red in the face, but spoke as hoarse as a crow, and his voice shook, too, like a taut rope. "Silver," he said, "you're old and you're honest, or has the name for it, and you've money too, which lots of poor sailors hasn't, and you're brave, or I'm mistook. And will you tell me you'll let yourself be led away with that kind of mess of swabs? Not you. As sure as God sees me, I'd sooner lose my hand if I turn again my duty." And then all of a sudden he was interrupted by a noise. I had found one of the honest hands, while here, at the same moment, came news of another. Far away, out in the marsh, there arose, all of a sudden, a sound like the cry of anger, then another on the back of it, and then one horrid, long-drawn scream. The rocks of the spyglass re-echoed it a score of times. The whole troop of marsh birds rose again, darkening heaven, with a simultaneous whir, and long after that death yell was still ringing in my brains. Silence had re-established its empire, and only the rustle of the re-descending birds and the boom of the distant surges distributed the languor of the afternoon. Tom had leaped at the sound, like a horse at the spur, but Silver had not winked an eye. He stood where he was, resting lightly on his crutch, watching his companion like a snake about to spring. "John," said the sailor, stretching out his hand. "Hands off!" cried Silver, leaping back a yard, as it seemed to me, with the speed and security of a trained gymnast. "Hands off, if you like, Silver," said the other. "It's a black conscience that can make you feared of me. But, in heaven's name, tell me what was that?" "That?" returned Silver, smiling away, but warier than ever, his eye a mere pinpoint in his big face, but gleaming like a crumb of glass. "That? Oh, I reckon that'll be Alan." So this is the picture of them talking, that he's spying on them as. I like to read also. Aw, awesome. I love that. Thank you for the follows, guys. Oh, okay, no problem. I just started, I'm reading Treasure Island. Just started the chapter 14. No, I just started. You're here. I was waiting for a while. I was, like, you were one of the people I was waiting for. So I just started. So no worries. Always love a good book before bedtime. Wonderful. I could picture you reading to yourself. Aw, thank you. That's sweet. I also live in a tent. Thank you. Oh, that's awesome. I do like camping. Alright. So apparently Alan just made a big noise. This poor Tom flashed out like a hero. "Alan," he cried. "Then rest his soul for a true seaman. And as for you, John Silver, long you've been a mate of mine, but you're a mate of mine no more. If I die like a dog, I'll die in my duty. You've killed Alan, have you? Kill me too, if you can, but I defies you." And with that, this brave fellow turned his back directly on the cook, and set off walking for the beach. But he was not destined to go far. With a cry, John seized the branch of a tree, whipped the crutch out of his armpit, and sent that uncouth missile hurtling through the air. It struck poor Tom point foremost, and with stunning violence, right between the shoulders in the middle of his back. His hands flew up, he gave a sort of gasp, and fell. Whether he was injured much or little, none could ever tell. Like enough, to judge from the sound, his back was broken on the spot. But he had no time given him to recover. Silver, agile as a monkey, even without leg or crutch, was on top of him next moment, and had twice buried his knife up to the hilt in that defenseless body. From my place of ambush I could hear him pant aloud as he struck the blows. I do not know what it rightly is to faint, but I do know that for the next little while the whole world swam before me in a whirling mist. Silver and the birds and the tall spyglass hilltop going round and topsy-turvy before my eyes, and all manner of bells ringing and distant voices shouting in my ear. While I came again to myself, the monster had pulled himself together, his crutch under his arm, his hat upon his head. Just before him Tom lay motionless upon that sward. But the murderer minded him not a whit, cleansing his blood-stained knife the while upon a wisp of grass. Everything else was unchanged, the sun still shining mercilessly on the steamy marsh and the tall pinnacle of the mountain, and I could scarce persuade myself that murder had been actually done, and a human life cruelly cut short a moment since, before my eyes. But now John put his hand into his pocket, brought out a whistle, and blew upon it several modulated blasts that rang far across the heated air. I could not tell, of course, the meaning of the signal, but it instantly awoke my fears. More men would be coming. I might be discovered. They had already slain 2 of the honest people. After Tom and Alan, might not I come next? Instantly I began to extricate myself and crawl back again, with what speed and silence I could manage, to the more open portion of the wood. As I did so, I could hear hails coming and going between the old buccaneer and his comrades, and this sound of danger lent me wings. As soon as I was clear of the thicket, I ran as I never ran before, scarce minding the direction of my flight, so long as it led me from the murderers, and as I ran, fear grew and grew upon me, until it turned into a kind of frenzy. Indeed, could anyone be more entirely lost than I? When the gun fired, how should I dare to go down to the boats amongst those fiends, still smoking from their crime? Would not the first of them who saw me wring my neck like a snipe's? Would not my absence itself be an evidence to them of my alarm, and therefore of my fatal knowledge? It was all over, I thought. Good-bye to the Hispaniola, good-bye to the squire, the doctor, the captain. There was nothing left for me but death by starvation or death by the mutiny's hands. All this while, as I say, I was still running, and without taking any notice. I had drawn near to the foot of the hill with the 2 peaks, and had got into a part of the island where the live oaks grew more widely apart, and seemed more like forest trees in their bearing and dimensions. Mingled with these were a few scattered pines, some 50, some near 70 feet high. The air, too, smelled more fresh than down beside the marsh, and here a fresh alarm brought me to a standstill with a thumping heart. Aww. You're like, what year is it? Don't worry, we just read 1 chapter. Read 1 chapter. Listening to you read is always... Oh, that's awesome. I'm so glad, Laura. I'm so glad. Can you get... cornstalk what? Can you get Bendigo... I don't know what those are. Lighthurst. That was beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. I loved it. Aw, Louie, thank you for all the smiles. Hey, at least you're doing something useful. Aw, thank you guys. Thank you. Welcome. We're reading Treasure Island. How they updated the chat. Oh, sorry. Leaves. That was so beautiful. Killed 2 already. Jeez, I didn't even realize. Same. I honestly, I know the story mostly from the Muppet Treasure Island. I've never actually read this book all the way through, so I was not expecting that. I was, um, uh, yeah, it was a bit much. You have pretty size. Aw, thank you. Wheeler, Comstock load. What? Um, I don't know what these words mean. Hello, Rhode Island. He got unlived. What? Yeah, they say something bad, and when I remove it, it deletes the comment. Oh, that's good. It ain't Disney, right? Yeah, exactly. Um. Yeah, I don't know what's going on in chat, but if everybody could be respectful, decent, there's literally nothing sexual happening here. So just because I'm a female doesn't mean it's okay. Okay? Okay. We're reading now. Got it? Alright, chapter 15, The Man of the Island. That's pretty cool. I like that. I like that title. Alright, ready? Can we all behave? Oh, man. From the side of the hill, which was here steep and stony, a spout of gravel was dislodged and fell rattling and bounding through the trees. My eyes turned instinctively in that direction, and I saw a figure leap with great rapidity. What is it? Just admiring. Oh, thank you. Great rapidity behind the trunk of a pine. What it was, whether bear or man or monkey, I couldn't no wise tell. This book is interesting. Like, there's a lot of words that are not like common English words. They're like pirate talk, and so it's kind of like a new experience. Learning as I go. It seemed dark and shaggy, more I knew not. But the terror of this new apparition brought me to a stand. I was now, it seemed, cut off upon both sides. Behind me the murderers, behind me this lurking nondescript, and immediately I began to prefer the dangers that I knew to those I knew not. Silver himself appeared less terrible in contrast with this creature of the woods, and I turned on my heel and looking sharply behind me over my shoulder, began to retrace my steps in the direction of the boats. Instantly the figure reappeared and, making a wide circuit, began to head me off. I was tired at any rate, but I had been as fresh as when I rose. I could see it was in vain for me to contend in speed with such an adversary. From trunk to trunk the creature flitted like a deer, running manlike on 2 legs, but unlike any man that I had ever seen, stooping almost double as it ran. Yet a man it was. I had seen him clearly enough to be no longer in doubt about that. Thank you. What are you reading? Right now I'm reading, Treasure Island. Oh man, Steele, I can't do accents of any kind. I am like, if there was a term for people who like have an inability to do accents, that would be me. Maybe I'll try. I didn't miss it. Thank you. Thank you, Paul. Arg. That's my best arg. No Man's Planet. He's gonna read, we're gonna duet read, and he's gonna read the part of Long John Silver for me in his accent. Annexentia. If that's it, then that's it. So, good catch, arg. Oh, thank you for the amazing. That's awesome. Thank you. Okay, we'll continue. Oh, yes. Ooh, that's beautiful. Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you. I'm accent deficient, exactly. That would describe me perfectly. I'll try my best, but no making fun. I began to recall what I had heard of cannibals. Oof. I was within an ace of calling for help, but the mere fact that he was a man, however wild, had somewhat reassured me, and my fear of Silver began to revive in proportion. I stood still, therefore, and cast about for some method of escape, and as I was thinking, the recollection of my pistol flashed into my mind. As soon as I remembered I was not defenseless, courage glowed again in my heart, and I set my face resolutely for this man of the island, and walked briskly toward him. He was concealed by this time behind another tree trunk, but he must have been watching me closely, for as soon as I began to move in his direction, he reappeared and took a step to meet me. Then he hesitated, drew back, came forward again, and at last, to my wonder and confusion, threw himself on his knees and held out his clasped hands in supplication. At that I once more stopped. "Who are you?" I asked. "Ben Gunn," he answered, and his voice sounded hoarse and awkward like a rusty lock. "I'm poor Ben Gunn, I am, and I haven't spoke with a Christian these 3 years. Morning. Aw, oh, thank you for the crane. Oh my gosh, you guys. I love them. I so appreciate the gifts. They actually help me a lot too. Like IRL. Like, I definitely am very thankful for them. And they're pretty, and they're fun. I could now see that he was a white man like myself, and that his features were even pleasing. His skin, wherever it was exposed, was burned by the sun. Even his lips were black, and his fair eyes looked quite startling in so dark a face. Of all the beggarmen that I had seen or fancied, he was the chief for raggedness. He was clothed with tatters of old ship's canvas and old sea cloth, and this extraordinary patchwork was all held together by a system of the most various and incongruous fastenings, brass buttons, bits of stick, and loops of tarry gaskin. About his waist he wore an old brass-buckled leather belt, which was the one thing solid in his whole strange accoutrement. 3 years, I cried. Were you shipwrecked? Nay, mate, said he, marooned. That was my accent. I too am pretty. That's hilarious. My dude, oh, I have been waiting for Ben Gunn. Oh my goodness. I'll try to do him justice. Good morning, good morning. Thank you. Ooh. Thank you, thank you. I love it. Yeah, that's what it said. It was convincing. Thank you. Yeah, where was that word? Yeah, accoutrement. Accoutrement. The man that plays Ben Gunn in Black Sails is an Adonis. Really? Oh my goodness. Okay, I heard the word, and I knew it stood for a horrible kind of punishment common enough among the buccaneers, in which the offender is put ashore with a little powder and shot, and left behind on some desolate and distant island. Marooned 3 years agone. I don't know how to do a Irish accent. First one, accoutrement. I love it. He's the monkey man from Umbrella. He is? Wait, are you being serious? I love the Umbrella Academy. Okay. Nay, mate. He said maroon. I'm trying to figure out this. Okay. Marooned 3 years agone, he continued, and lived on goats since then, and berries and oysters. I don't know how to do a Irish accent right now. Accoutrement. Oh my goodness, thank you. Ooh, cookies, lots of cookies. I love it. Thank you, Paul. Oh my gosh, thank you. I need some milk now with all those cookies. All right, I'll try to continue now. And lived on goats ever since. Wherever a man is, says I, a man can do for himself, but mate, my heart is sore for Christian diet. What's that mean? You mightn't happen to have a piece of cheese about you now, no? Well, many's the long night I've dreamed of cheese, toasted mostly, and woke up again. I'm not doing a good accent, I know. Confusing our language. Damn, Frenchie's confusion. Right? Ooh, man, all those coffees. Thank you, Paul. That'll work. That'll work. I don't know how to do accents. I'm just making an N accent. I don't know what accent it is, but I'm just making an N accent. I'm supposed to say shiver me timbers. Shiver me timbers. Shiver me timbers. Was that close? Oh, man. You mightn't happen to have a piece of cheese, toasted mostly. Okay. If I ever can get on board again, said I, you shall have cheese by the stone. All this time he had been feeling the stuff of my jacket, smoothing my hands, looking at my boots, and generally, in the intervals of his speech, showing a childish pleasure in the presence of a fellow creature. But at my last words he perked up into a kind of startled slyness. If ever you can get aboard again, says you, he repeated. Why now, who's to hinder you? Not you, I know, was my reply. Aw, thank you. Thank you, guys. Oh my gosh, thank you. And right you was, he cried. Now you, what do you call yourself, mate? Jim, I told him. Jim, says he. Quite pleased, apparently. Well, now, Jim, I've lived that rough as you'd be ashamed to hear of. Now, for instance, you wouldn't think I had a pious mother to look at me, he said. Why, no, not in particular, I answered. Ah, well, he said. But I had remarkable pious, and I was a civil, pious boy, and could rattle off my catechisms that fast, as you couldn't tell one word from another, and here's what it come to, Jim, and it begun with Chuck Farthen on the blessed gravestones. That's what it began with. But it went farther into that, and so my mother told me, and predicted the whole, she did, the pious woman. But it were Providence that put me here. I've thought it all out in this here lonely island, and I'm back on piety. You don't catch me tasting rum so much, but just a thimbleful of luck, of course. The first chance I have. I'm bound I'll be good. I feel like I'm going Irish. I'm slowly going Irish here. We're reading Treasure Island. Thank you for all the gifts, guys. Seriously. I'm starting to feel, the medicine kicked in. I'm not feeling super dizzy anymore. I definitely am not feeling great. But I'm feeling not as bad as I was. Thank you. I appreciate that. Appreciate checking in. Let's see. I've thought it all out. I'm just going to go full Irish, I think, at this point. Oh, thank you for... Paul, thank you for all the gifts. Welcome to the family, Lawrence. Ah, Lawrence, thank you for the follow. Right? He is. He's just going to town. Like, seriously, thank you so much. That's going towards my next grocery shopping trip, so thank you. You don't, of course, the first chance I have, I'm bound I'll be good, and I see the way too. And Jim, looking all around him and lowering his voice to a whisper, I'm rich. I now felt sure that the poor fellow had gone crazy in his solitude, and I suppose I must have shown the feeling in my face, for he repeated the statement hotly. Rich, I says, and I'll tell you what, I'll make a man out of you, Jim. How does this book go exactly? Ah, Jim, you'll bless your stars, you will. You was the first that found me. And at this there came suddenly a lowering shadow over his face, and he tightened his grasp upon my hand and raised a forefinger threateningly before my eyes. Now, Jim, you tell me true. That ain't Flint's ship, he asked. Ooh, he knows Flint. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. Hello, Chris. Hello. Welcome. We're just reading Treasure Island. How are you? At this, I had a happy inspiration. I began to believe that I had found an ally, and I answered him at once. It's not Flint's ship, and Flint is dead, but I'll tell you true, if, as you ask me, there are some of Flint's hands aboard. Worse luck for the rest of us. Not a man with one leg, he gasped. Silver? I asked. Ah, Silver, says he. That were his name. He's the cook, and the ringleader, too. He was still holding me by the wrist, and at that he gave it quite a wring. If you was sent by Long John, he said, I'm as good as pork, and I know it. But where was you, do you suppose? I had made my mind up in a moment, and by way of answer told him the whole story of our voyage, and the predicament in which we found ourselves. He heard me with the keenest interest, and when I had done, he patted me on the head. You're a good lad, Jim, said he, and you're all in a clove hitch, ain't you? Well, you just put your trust in Ben Gunn. Ben Gunn's the man to do it. Would you think it likely, now, that your squire would prove a liberal-minded one in case of help, him being in a clove hitch, as you remark? I told him the squire was the most liberal of men. Ah, but you see, returned Ben Gunn, I didn't mean giving me a gate to keep, and a suit of livery clothes, and such. That's not my mark, Jim. What I mean is, would he be likely to come down to the tune of, say, £1,000 out of the money that's as good as a man's own already? I am sure he would, said I, as it was, all hands were to share. Ah! Welcome, Venus! Welcome! Thank you for the follows, guys. That's not what this is. That was just a trending video. Welcome. We're reading Treasure Island. And a passage home, he added, with a look of great shrewdness. Why, I cried, the squire's a gentleman, and besides, if we got rid of the others, we should want you to help work the vessel home. Ah, said he, so you would. And he seemed very much relieved. Now I'll tell you what, he went on. So much I'll tell you, and no more. I were in Flint's ship when he buried the treasure, he and 6 strong seamen. They were ashore nigh on a week, and us standing off and on in the old Walrus. One fine day up went the signal, and here come Flint by himself in a little boat, and his head done up in a blue scarf. The sun was getting up, and mortal white he looked about the cutwater. But there he was, you mind, and the 6 all dead and buried. How he done it, not a man aboard us could make out. It was battle, murder, and sudden death. Leastways, him against 6. Billy Bones was the mate. Long John was quartermaster, and they asked him what the treasure was. Ah, he says, you can go ashore if you like, and stay, he says. But as for the ship, she'll beat up for more, by thunder, that's what he said. Well, I was in another ship 3 years back, and we sighted this island. Boys, said I, here's Flint's treasure. Let's land and find it. The captain was displeased at that, but my messmates were all of a mind and landed. 12 days they looked for it, and every day they had the worst word for me, until one fine morning all hands went aboard. As for you, Benjamin Gunn, says they, here's a musket, they says, and a spade and pickaxe. You can stay here and find Flint's money for yourself, they says. Ooh. Well, Jim, 3 years have I been here, and not a bite of Christian diet from that day to this. But now you look here, look at me. Do I look like a man before the mast? No, says you. Nor I weren't, neither, says I. With that he winked and pinched me hard. Just you mention them words to your squire, Jim, he went on. Nor he weren't, neither, that's the words. 3 years he were the man of this island, light and dark, fair and rain, and sometimes he would, maybe, think upon a prayer, says you, and sometimes he would, maybe, think of his old mother, so be as she's alive, you'll say. But the most part of Gunn's time, this is what you'll say, the most part of his time was took up with another matter, and then you'll give him a nip like I do. And he pinched me again in the most confidential manner. Then, he continued, then you'll up and you'll say this. Gunn is a good man, you'll say, and he puts a precious sight more confidence, a precious sight, mind that, in a gentleman born than in these gentlemen's of fortune, having been one hisself. Well, I said, I don't understand one word that you've been saying. Me neither. Glad I'm not the only one. Hello, Illinois. Ah, he said, that's the hitch for sure. Well, there's my boat that I made with my 2 hands. I keep her under the White Rock. If the worst comes to the worst, we might try that after dark. Hi, he broke out, what's this? For just then, although the sun had still an hour or 2 to run, all the echoes of the island awoke and bellowed to the thunder of a cannon. They have begun to fight, I cried. Follow me. And I began to run toward the anchorage, my terrors all forgotten, while, close at my side, the marooned man in his goatskins trotted easily and lightly. Left, left, says he. Keep to your left hand, mate Jim, under the trees with you. There's where I killed my first goat. They don't come down here now. They're all mast-headed on them mountains, for the fear of Benjamin Gunn. Ah, and there's the cemetery. Cemetery. He must have meant. Oh, sedimary. Cemetery he must have meant. My eyes automatically corrected it for me. You see the mounds? I come here and prayed now and then, when I thought maybe a Sunday would be about to do. It weren't quite a chapel, but it seemed more solemn-like, and then, says you, Ben Gunn was short-handed. No chaplain, nor so much as a Bible and a flag, you says. So he kept talking as I ran, neither expecting nor receiving any answer. The cannon shot was followed, after a considerable interval, by a volley of small arms. Another pause, and then, not a quarter of a mile in front of me, I beheld the Union Jack in the air above a wood. And that was the end of part 3. Now we're into part 4, the stockade. Treasure Island. We're reading Treasure Island. Thank you, guys. Love the bedtime story. What book? Oh, thank you, Steve. I'm so glad. LA. Welcome, welcome. I'm so glad that you guys are enjoying it. So glad that you guys are here and enjoying it. Thank you for all the likes, for being so kind, and glad that you're enjoying it. It really makes me happy. Like, I look forward to this even more so because so many people really enjoy it. Hey, Upstyle! Welcome back, welcome back. And this is the picture for the next chapter we're starting in part 4 of the book. Falling Out, thank you for this. Aww! You're welcome, thank you. Hope the likes are you. Yes, I'm doing good, Just reading a bedtime story for you guys and myself before I pass out. Aw, thank you, Paul. Thank you, Steven, thank you. Thank you, guys. Alright, chapter 16. The ship is abandoned. Ooh. Hello, user. It was about 1:30, 3 bells in the sea phrase, that the 2 boats went ashore from the Hispaniola. The captain, the squire, and I were talking matters over in the cabin. Had there been a breath of wind, we should have fallen on the 6 mutineers who were left aboard with us, slipped our cable and away to sea. But the wind was wanting, and to complete our helplessness, down came Hunter with the news that Jim Hawkins had slipped into a boat and gone ashore with the rest. It never occurred to us to doubt Jim Hawkins, but we were alarmed for his safety. With the men and the temper they were in, it seemed an even chance if we should see the lad again. We ran on deck. The pitch was bubbling in the seams. The nasty stench of the place turned me sick. If ever a man smelled fever and dysentery, it was in that abominable anchorage. The 6 scoundrels were sitting grumbling under a sail in the forecastle. Ashore we could see the gigs made fast, and a man sitting in each, hard by where the river runs in. One of them was whistling Lily Bulero. Loving the story. Oh, I'm so glad, Lord. Thank you. You were supposed to be... Oh, thank you, Upstyle. Hello, I come from 7 continents. Like, it's hot. Hello, Phoenix. Hello, everybody. Thank you for the follows and the likes and the gifts. Oh, hello, Russia. Hello. Waiting was a strain, and it was decided that Hunter and I should go ashore with the jolly boat, in quest of information. The gigs had leaned to their right, but Hunter and I pulled straight in. in the direction of the stockade upon the chart. The two who were left guarding their boats seemed in a bustle at our appearance. Lily Barreau stopped off, and I could see the pair discussing what they ought to do. Had they gone and told Silver, all might have turned out differently. But they had their orders, I suppose, and decided to sit quietly where they were and hark back again to Lily Bulero. There was a slight bend in the coast, and I steered so as to put it between us. Even before we landed, we had thus lost sight of the gigs. I jumped out and came as near running as I durst, with a big silk handkerchief under my hat for coolness' sake, and a brace of pistols ready primed for safety. I had not gone 100 yards when I came on the stockade. This was how it was. A spring of clear water rose almost at the top of a knoll. Well, on the knoll, and enclosing the spring, they had clapped a stout log house, fit to hold 20 people on a pinch, and loopholed for musketry on every side. All round this they had cleared a wide space, and then the thing was completed by a paling 6 feet high, without door or opening, too strong to pull down without time and labor, and too open to shelter the besiegers. The people in the log house had them in every way. They stood quiet in shelter and shot the others like partridges. All they wanted was a good watch and food, for short of a complete surprise, they might have held the place against a regiment. What particularly took my fancy was the spring, for though we had a good enough place of it in the cabin of the Hispaniola, with plenty of arms and ammunition and things to eat and excellent wines, there had been one thing overlooked. We had no water. I was thinking this over, when there came ringing over the island the cry of a man at the point of death. I was not new to violent death. I have served in His Royal Highness the Duke of Cumberland, and got a wound at Fontenoy, but I know my pulse went doubt and carry one. Jim Hawkins is gone, was my first thought. It is something to have been an old soldier, but more still to have been a doctor. There is no time to dilly-dally in our work, and so now I made up my mind, and with no time lost returned to the shore and jumped on board the jolly boat. Welcome, welcome. We are reading, for anybody new, we are reading Treasure Island. Yes, story time. Awesome. Okay. By good fortune, Hunter pulled a good oar. We made the water fly, and the boat was soon alongside, and I aboard the schooner. I found them all shaken, as was natural. The squire was sitting down, as white as a sheet, thinking of the harm he had led us to, the good soul, and one of the 6 forecastle hands was little better. "There's a man," says Captain Smollett, nodding toward him, "new to this work. He came nigh hand fainting, doctor, when he heard the cry. Another touch of the rudder, and that man would join us." I told my plan to the captain, and between us we settled on the details of its accomplishment. We put old Rudrith in the gallery between the cabin and the forecastle, with 3 or 4 loaded muskets and a mattress for protection. Hunter brought the boat round under the stern port, and Joyce and I set to work loading her with powder tins, muskets, bags of biscuits, kegs of pork, a cask of cognac, and my invaluable medicine chest. Let's see. In the meantime, the squire and the captain stayed on deck, and the latter hailed the coxswain, who was the principal man aboard. "Mr. Hands," he said, "here are 2 of us with a brace of pistols each. If any one of you 6 make a signal of any description, that man's dead." They were a good deal taken back, and after a little consultation, one and all tumbled down the fore companion, thinking, no doubt, to take us on the rear. But when they saw a red Ruth waiting for them in the sparred gallery, they went about ship at once, and a head popped out again on deck. "Down, dog," cries the captain. And the head popped back again, and we heard no more, for a time, of these 6 very faint-hearted seamen. By this time, tumbling things in as they came, we had the jolly boat loaded as much as we dared. Joyce and I got through the stern port, and we made for shore again, as fast as oars could take us. This second trip fairly aroused the watchers along the shore. Lillibulero was dropped again, and just before we lost sight of them behind a little point, one of them whipped ashore and disappeared. I had half a mind to change my plan and destroy their boats, but I feared that Silver and the others might be close at hand, and all might be lost if we should try for too much. We had soon touched land in the same place as before, and set to provision the blockhouse. All three made the first journey, heavily laden, and tossed our stores over the palisade, then leaving Joyce to guard them. One man, to be sure, but with a half-dozen muskets. Hunter and I returned to the jolly boat, and loaded ourselves once more, so we proceeded without pausing to take breath, till the whole cargo was bestowed, and when the two servants took up their position in the blockhouse, and I sculled back to the Hispaniola. And this is the picture of that happening. Oh, thank you for the follow. Hello, France. I am reading to people. Reading Treasure Island. So welcome, welcome. Hello, Santa Barbara, California. Oh, thank you, Gary. Thank you. Welcome, welcome. Protect her at all costs. Oh, Paul, you're so sweet. Oh. Thank you. All right. That we should have risked a... Aw, thank you. We are on chapter 16. So, thank you, user. Yeah, we're on chapter 16. That we should have risked a second boat load seems more daring than it really was. They had the advantage of numbers, of course, but we had the advantage of arms. Not one of the men ashore had a musket, and before they could get within range for pistol shooting, we flattered ourselves we should be able to give a good account of half a dozen at least. The squire was waiting for me at the stern window, all his faintness gone from him. He caught the painter and made it fast, and we fell to loading the boat for our very lives. Pork, powder, and biscuits was the cargo, with only a musket and a cutlass apiece for Squire and me and Redruth and the captain. The rest of the arms and powder was dropped overboard in 2 fathoms and a half of water, so that we could see the bright steel shining far below us in the sun on the clean sandy bottom. Ah, thank you. Accommodating. To aliens too, as far as we know. There we go, yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you for the campfire. Thank you so much. I'm glad. Everything, aw, thank you. Okay. Let's see. By this time, the tide was beginning to ebb, and the ship was swinging round to her anchor. Voices were heard faintly hallooing in the direction of the 2 gigs, and though this reassured us for Joyce and Hunter, who were all well to the eastward, it warned our party to be off. Redruth retreated from his place in the gallery, and dropped into the boat, which we then brought round to the ship's counter, to be handier for Captain Smollett. "Now, men," said he, "do you hear me?" There was no answer from the forecastle. "It's to you, Abraham Gray. It's to you I am speaking." Still no reply. "Gray," resumed Mr. Smollett, a little louder, "I am leaving this ship, and I order you to follow your captain. I know you are a good man at bottoms, and I dare say not one of the lot of you'd use as bad as he makes out. I have my watch here in my hand. I give you 30 seconds to join me in." There was a pause. "Come, my fine fellow," continued the captain, "don't hang so long in stays. I'm risking my life, and the lives of these good gentlemen every second." There was a sudden scuffle, a sound of blows, and out burst Abraham Gray with the knife cut on the side of the cheek, and came running to the captain like a dog in the whistle. "I'm with you, sir," said he. And the next moment he and the captain had dropped aboard of us, and we had shoved off and given way. We were clear out of the ship, but not yet ashore in our stockade. Aw, thank you. Thank you for the follow. I'll asleep all day, but you make me want to... Aw. All nice. I did a shift. That's hilarious. Thank you so much. Awesome. I'm so glad. Thank you guys so much. You guys are so wonderful. I love coming across so many amazingly nice people. I appreciate that. Alright, I think this will be the last chapter, chapter 17, okay? The Jolly Boat's Last Trip. Hello, Bruce from Kentucky. Hello, Met. Hello, Met. This 5th trip was quite different from any of the others. In the first place, the little gallipot of a boat that we were in was gravely overloaded. 5 grown men, and 3 of them, Trelawney, Rudrith, and the captain, over 6 feet high, was already more than she was meant to carry. Add to that the powder, pork, and bread bags. The gunwale was lipping astern. Several times we shipped a little water, and my breeches and the tails of my coat were all soaking wet before we had gone 100 yards. Here's the audiobook. Here. The captain made us trim the boat, and we got her to lie a little more evenly. All the same, we were afraid to breathe. In the second place, the ebb was now making a stronger rippling current running westward through the basin, and then southward and seaward down the straits by which we had entered in the morning. Even the ripples were a danger to our overloaded craft, but the worst of it was that we were swept out of our true course and away from our proper landing place behind the point. If we let the current have its way, we should come ashore beside the gigs, where the pirates might appear at any moment. "I cannot keep her head for the stockade, sir," said I to the captain. I was steering, while he and Rudrith, 2 fresh men, were at the oars. "The tide keeps washing her down. Could you pull a little stronger?" "Not without swamping the boat," said he. "You must bear up, sir, if you please. Bear up until you see you're gaining." I tried, and found by experiment that the tide kept sweeping us westward until I had laid her head due east, or just about right angles to the way we ought to go. "We'll never get ashore at this rate," said I. "If it's the only course that we can lie, sir, we must even lie it," returned the captain. "We must keep upstream. You see, sir," he went on, "if once we dropped the leeward of the landing place, it's hard to say where we should get ashore, besides the chance of being boarded by the gigs, whereas the way we go, the current must slacken, and then we can dodge back another along the shore." "The current's less already, sir," said the man Gray, who was sitting in the fore sheets. "You can ease her off a bit now, and still hold your course." "Thank you, my man," said I, quite as if nothing had happened, for we had all quietly made up our minds to treat him like one of ourselves. Suddenly the captain spoke up again, and I thought his voice was a little changed. "The gun," said he. "I have thought of that," said I, for I made sure he was thinking of a bombardment of the fort. They could never get the gun ashore, and if they did, they could never haul it through the woods. "Look astern, doctor," replied the captain. "We had entirely forgotten the long 9, and there, to our horror, were the 5 rogues busy about her, getting off her jacket, as they called the stout tarpaulin cover under which she sailed. Not only that, but it flashed into my mind at the same moment that she round shot and the powder for the gun had been left behind, and a stroke with an axe would put it all into the possession of the evil ones aboard." Uh-oh. Oh, thank you for the follows. Thank you for the gifts. Thank you for the likes. "Israel was Flint's gunner," said Gray hoarsely. "At any rate, we put the boat's head direct for the landing place." By this time we had got so far out of the run for the current that we kept steerage way even at our necessarily gentle rate of rowing, and I could keep her steady for the goal. But the worst of it was, with that with the course I now held, we turned our broadside instead of our stern to the Hispaniola, and offered a target like a barn door. I could hear, as well as see, that brandy-faced rascal, Israel Hands, plumping down a round shot on the deck. "Who's the best shot?" asked the captain. "Mr. Trelawney, out and away," said I. "Mr. Trelawney, will you please pick me off one of these men, sir? Hands, if possible," said the captain. Trelawney was as cool as steel. He looked to the priming of his gun. "Now," cried the captain, "easy with that gun, sir, or you'll swamp the boat. All hands stand by to trim her when he aims." The squire raised his gun, the rowing ceased, and we leaned over to the other side to keep the balance, and all was so nicely contrived that we did not ship a drop. And this is the photo, or the picture. Aw, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I love those kind words. Thank you. They had the guns by this time slewed round upon the swivel, and Hans, who was at the muzzle with the rammer, was, in consequence, the most exposed. However, we had no luck, for just as Trelawney fired, down he stooped. The ball whistled over him, and it was one of the other 4 who fell. The cry he gave was echoed, not only by his companions on board, but by a great number of voices from the shore, and looking in that direction, I saw the other pirates trooping out from the trees and tumbling into their places in the boats. "Here come the gig, sir," said I. "Give way, then," cried the captain. "We mustn't mind if we swamp her now. If we can't get ashore, all's up." "Only one of the gigs is being manned, sir," I added. "The crew of the other most likely going round by shore to cut us off." "They'll have a hot run, sir," returned the captain. "Jack's ashore, you know. It's not them I mind, it's the round shot. Carpet bowls. My lady's maid couldn't miss. Tell us, squire, when you see the match, and we'll hold water." In the meanwhile we had been making headway at a good pace for a boat so overloaded, and we had shipped but little water in the process. We were now close in 30 or 40 strokes, and we should beach her, for the ebb had already disclosed a narrow belt of sand below the clustering trees. The gig was no longer to be feared. The little point had already concealed it from our eyes. The ebb tide, which had so cruelly delayed us, was now making reparation and delaying our assailants. The one source of danger was the gun. If I durst," said the captain, "I'd stop and pick off another man." But it was plain that they meant nothing should delay their shot. They had never so much as looked at their fallen comrade, though he was not dead, and I could see him trying to crawl away. "Ready," cried the squire. "Hold," cried the captain, quick as an echo. And he and Redruth backed with a great heave that sent her stern bodily under water. The report fell in at the same instant of time. This was the first that Jim heard, the sound of the squire's shot not having reached him. Where the ball passed not one of his precisely knew, but I fancy it must have been over our heads, and that the wind of it may have contributed to our disaster. At any rate, the boat sank by the stern, quite gently, in 3 feet of water, leaving the captain and myself facing each other on our feet. The other 3 took complete headers and came up again, drenched and bubbling. So far there was no great harm, no lives were lost, and we could wade ashore in safety. But there were all our stores at the bottom, and, to make things worse, only 2 guns out of 5 remained in a state of service. Mine I had snatched from my knees and held over my head by a sort of instinct. As for the captain, he had carried his over his shoulder by a bandolier, and like a wise man, lock uppermost. The other 3 had gone down with the boat. To add to our concern, we heard voices already drawing near us in the woods along shore, and we had not only the danger of being cut off from the stockade in our half-crippled state, but the fear before us whether, if Hunter and Joyce were attacked by half a dozen, they would have the sense and conduct to stand firm. Hunter was steady, that we knew. Joyce was a doubtless case. A pleasant, polite man for a valet, and to brush one's clothes, but not, as far as we knew, entirely fitted for a man of war. With all this in our minds, we waded ashore as fast as we could, leaving behind us the poor jolly boat, and a good half of all our powder and provisions. And that's the end of that chapter. Next chapter will be chapter 18, and I will be reading that tomorrow night. Let's see. Thank you, Lord. Thank you. Thank you for the follows, guys. Thank you for the gifts. I appreciate them so much. Nice bedtime story. You are. Thank you, Nick. I appreciate that. Hello, Just. Thank you, Upstyle. Thank you. Thank you. Good night. Good night. I appreciate that. I do a lot of different stuff for acting. Some of it can be seen on my Linktree bio, in my bio. Thanks for the smiles. Oops, it skipped up. Thanks for the smiles. Like, thank you. Thank you, Lord. Sweet dreams to you as well. I'm grateful for your excellence. Oh, thank you. I try. It gets harder the more tired I get. Thank you. Aw, thank you guys. Thank you. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I am glad that you guys enjoy it so much. I'll be continuing tomorrow night about the same time, maybe a little earlier, hopefully. Continuing reading. So we're in chapter 17. We're like halfway through the book now. So, thank you. Wave works good. Thank you guys. Have a good night or a good morning, depending on where you're at. And thank you, and good night. Night.